Hello and welcome to the Make More Placements podcast. If you're listening to this live on Facebook or LinkedIn, make sure you give us a like, a comment, a share. This helps with the algorithm, helps more recruitment and search business owners like you see these episodes so we can just spread the message and hopefully add some value to your business. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how one recruiter, so one of our clients we work with, how one recruiter secured a 15K in fees without filling a single role, right? So going to give you sort of a bit of a backstory about, his background, what he did, and how you can do this in your business if it's something you're interested in as well. So that's how one recruiter secured 15K in fees without filling a single role. Just to remind you, this episode and every other episode on the Make More Placement podcast is sponsored by Placement Box. Placement Box is the world's leading AI-powered client attraction tool built specifically for recruitment, staffing, and executive search business owners, and it's packed full of purpose-built client attraction tools ready to plug and play into your business so you can start attracting more clients the very same day that you use them. This is a tool that we use in our own business, tool that we recommend to all of our clients, and I highly recommend that you check it out. So that's placementbox.io. I think at the moment you can get a free 2-week trial, so you can try out the software for free, get some job orders in, get some clients in before there's any commitment involved. Right. So let's jump into the content, right? How one recruiter secured 15K in fees without filling a single role. Again, Terry, before we sort of dive into the sort of the main content of this, can you give us a backstory of Sean, where his business was, or I guess what type of business he had before we started working with him, and then we'll sort of go into the journey of where he is now.
Yeah, so Sean is based in North America. He's been working with us for a year. When he joined us, he was averaging about $100,000 a year. He tended to outsource most of the recruitment to third-party resources to do most of the resourcing to find the candidates. His biggest frustration is that a lot of the job orders he worked on never actually got filled through no fault of his own, because his business model was a very common business model. He worked on what's called contingent. So he would only get paid if the roles were filled. Now, a hiring manager listening to this, and maybe even some recruiters would say, well, that seems fair. Well, if you think about it, the average contingent recruiter, in his case, Sean, on average, he's filling 35% of the job orders that he got. So that meant that 65% of the time he was working, he wasn't getting paid. He found that incredibly frustrating. It was difficult to manage his cash flow. There was no, he would do a lot of work, and through no fault of his, those job orders would be put on hold, or cancelled altogether. So he was extremely frustrated, and he was aware that it was going to be really challenging to take his business to the next level with that kind of unpredictability. And one of the reasons he joined us, he wanted a more predictable and consistent income. And one of the ways that you can do it, it's not the only way, but one of the ways you can do it is by working with clients who are serious about working with you, who value and respect you as a recruiter, and they're prepared to pay a percentage of the fee up front before you even start working, which is known as retained recruitment.
Terry, I just want to dig into I just want to dig into something you said there. That, and again, I think this is the norm in the industry for contingency recruiters, that he's only filling 35% of the roles that he worked on. So for every 10 job orders, he's only actually making 3 placements, right? But he's working on 10. And again, it's something that we see time and time again when recruiters come to work with us. And one of the things I know that you're big on, and that we do inside the program, inside the Apex program, is we look at getting that to 8 filled for every 10. It's really improving the fill rate. But in your experience, or from what you've seen, what are some of the main reasons that job orders go unfilled by a recruiter? So if I'm a recruiter listening to this right now, I'm currently working on 10 job orders. I know that I only fill 3 out of every 10. What are some of the main reasons that those, the other 7 don't get filled, right? Assuming that I'm a good recruiter and I actually have the ability to find candidates, why are they, I guess, it's a failure rate, really. Why is my failure rate so high? Why am I failing at so many of the job orders that I work?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it'd be worth contingent recruitment business owners asking the same question, because often contingent recruitment owners say to me, I ask them what their number one challenge is, and they say finding candidates, and they say, if I could find more candidates, I would fill more of the roles. And my question to that is, if that's the case, are you saying that the roles that you don't fill never get filled by anybody else? And they go, no, they do get filled, but they get filled by my competitors. So if the roles get filled, there isn't a shortage of candidates. It's often a sign that their competitors got that job order before that recruiter did. So if you think about it, the average job order, there could be 4 or 5 other recruiters working on the role. If there's 4 other recruiters working on the role, the chances of filling it are now down to 20%. It's just a numbers game. I think you or somebody shared with me, you get better odds at the casino than doing that. If you're looking at 20%, but it's not. It's not the contingent recruiter's fault. I want to be absolutely clear. It's not that you're a bad recruiter. It just means that if your competitor got that job order 2, 3, a month before you did, your chances of filling it are pretty slim if they've got a head start on you. So although I said it's as low as 20%, it's probably less than that because your competitors got that job order before you, or you all get it at the same time. Then, if 5 of you get it at the same time, at best, your chances of filling it are 20%. So there's more than one recruiter working on the same role. That tends to be the main reason, because the recruiters are working on exactly the same role.
Okay, that makes sense. So, but talk to me about again, I don't know how in terms of percentage where it comes, but I know I speak to a lot of recruiters, and when I ask that question, okay, are the roles that are not being filled, are they being filled by another recruiter? So very often the answer is yes, as you just said, but often it's the case that actually they're not being filled, but it will be the client puts it on hold, or the client cancels, or the client's not returning their calls. Again, talk to me about why that happens first of all, and then we look at what we can do to avoid that.
Yeah, well, let's look at the first one. Clients, and listen, I want to be full disclosure here. I used to be a recruiter, and I've sent off CVs or resumes to hiring managers 20 plus years ago that I'm still waiting for a response on. So you're not alone on that. But look at it from the hiring point of view. You've had a conversation with the hiring manager, and they've said, if you know anybody that can do this description of the person they're looking for, send them over, because that's what we're looking for at the moment. You say, yeah, I will certainly do that. An inexperienced recruiter then puts the phone down, turns to their colleague and gives them a high five, saying, "Yeah, I've just won a job order." But think about it. There's no engagement from the hiring manager. It's a case of, if you know anybody, send them over. So straight away, you position yourself. That's something you're happy to do. If I know anybody, I'll send them over. But there's no engagement whatsoever. So you then send the CVs or resumes over to the hiring manager. So much could happen in between you doing that. Hiring managers put that on hold. We had a situation quite recently where a company had been acquired by another company. So all recruitment was put on hold. Again, note, there's no fault of the recruiter. The recruiter hadn't done anything wrong. Circumstances have changed. But if this is not communicated to the recruiter's continuously doing all this work. The recruiter's reaching out to candidates and doing the research, interviewing candidates for this role. The role's been put on hold, but they had no idea whatsoever. They're now interviewing candidates for the role. They're now getting the candidates excited for this role that's never, ever going to be filled through no fault of theirs.
No, yeah, 100%. 100%. It's something we see a lot as well. So talk to me about Sean then, in Sean's case, where, again, so why, first of all, we know that he secured 15K in fees and but didn't actually fill a single role. Where do those 15K in fees come from, first of all?
Yeah, so I think Sean's a great example, because a lot of times recruiters say to us, here's what we get all the time. Yeah, but my market won't pay retainers. That's what we get every day of the week. My market won't pay retainers. And my response is all the same. I hear you. But let me ask you a question, Mr. or Mrs. Recruiter. How often do you ask for a retainer? The response we then get is, oh, I don't ask because they don't pay. Well, here's what we know first and foremost. I'm yet to find a hiring manager who says, I insist that I pay you a retainer. In fact, let me volunteer to pay you a retainer. So most hiring managers won't ask for won't insist that they pay a retainer. So in Sean's case, he's got this frustration. And when he joined us, this is not Christian or Sean, every recruiter goes to this. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not sure if my market will do it. And what if I ask my market to pay a retainer and they don't pay it? Well, I would actually see it in a blessing, because when you get a retainer, by the way, your fill rate goes up to about 90%, as opposed to, in Sean's case, 35%. So those hiring managers aren't going to pay it. At some level, they know that either they're working with other recruiters or not, or they're not serious about it. So what Sean does now is a couple of things going on. First of all, what we know, to win a retainer, you can't do it on the very first meeting. So the retainers are won from effective marketing. So the hiring manager knows who you are, knows you have the authority to ask for a retainer, and knows that you're the more than capable of doing this job. I want to be clear about this, because I think sometimes recruiters go in, if I just do a cold call and ask a hiring manager for 10,000, 15,000 retainer, they just say yes. Very likely they'll say no to that, actually. Would you give somebody, a complete stranger, 10, 15,000 up front before they do any work? Probably not. So one of the things that Sean does first and foremost, he's got a marketing campaign. So he's constantly in front of his potential clients, and he's positioned himself as an authority. So much so that he never ever makes a cold call, and none of our clients make cold calls. They're only talking to people that they know are in the market for what they do. And in fact, what often happens with effective marketing, the hiring managers coming to you saying, I've seen your content on wherever, and I just want to have a conversation. Do you do this type of thing? And it's worth thinking about that. How often does a hiring manager who you've never met come to you because of your marketing? Well, if you get this right, that's exactly what happens. So first of all, in this case, the client didn't come to Sean. Sean reached out to the client and said, this is what we do. Can we have a conversation? The client's like, yeah, sure. They have a conversation. The hiring manager explains what he's looking for. Here's a key part as well. Sean is able to communicate the benefit to the hiring managers, to how the hiring manager will benefit from investing in the retainer rather than working contingent. And that's another key point as well, because many recruiters either don't know the benefit to the hiring manager or don't know how to communicate it. And I want to be absolutely clear about this. The hiring manager will only invest in the retainer if there's a benefit to them. It's not about you. It's how they're going to benefit with engaging in the retainer. And Sean was able to do that. So these were 3 roles, all exactly the same. I want to be absolutely clear about that. All 3 roles were the same. And Sean's immediate reaction is, what I'll do is I'll ask for 1 retainer for the 3 roles. And I'll do that. If I do that, I'm going to be quite happy with that. But upon reflection, he realized that whatever you ask for, whatever you're comfortable asking for, is just merely a reflection of your own self-worth. And his opinion was, well, actually, I'm worth more than that. So what he asked for was a retainer for each role. Here's the best bit about it, Drew. He asked for a retainer. I think it was 5,500 or 5,000 per role, expecting pushback. He communicated the benefit to the hiring manager in doing that. And you know what the hiring manager's response was? Yeah, sure, just get the details over to me and we'll get that signed off. No pushback whatsoever.
No, 100%. And I think that's a sign that when you get no, so obviously, look, objections are part of the sales process. So there's nothing wrong with getting objections per se. But I think when you speak to a prospect and you don't get any pushback on the fee, on the terms, or whatever, it's a really good reflection, a really good sign that your marketing beforehand, before the call's taken place, has been really effective as well. So I think that's sort of the ideal scenario. But yeah, Terry. So obviously he wins these 3 retainers, starts working on them, and then what happens? So obviously I know this got put on hold for some reason, but what happened with the client? Why did the client decide to change their mind or put the assignment on hold, or assignments on hold?
Yeah. So I think it was 13 days after they'd agreed to pay the retainer, and Sean has sent the invoice. And by the way, his payment terms are 7 days. 13 days later, the CEO calls Sean and says, hey, Sean, we need to put this on hold for the time being. The HR director that's going to be heavily involved in this assignment has been taken ill and is going to be off for some time, between 4 and 8 weeks off work. So we want to put these on hold.
Yeah.
Sean's reaction is, yeah, sure. That's absolutely fine. Sean knows he's going to get his invoice of 15,000 paid anyway, and it's been put on hold. When the client's ready, he'll reactivate.
Just to cut in on that, right? Because you touched on it earlier. So, look, no one wants. Sean doesn't want the assignment to be put on hold. No one wants the hiring manager to call them and put it on hold, right? But I think 2 things to highlight here is because, so normally, right, if a job order gets put on hold when you haven't got the upfront fee, you don't get the call from the hiring manager. There's no skin in the game for them to call you, right? So you don't hear back. You spend weeks, months, even you work on sending CVs across, hearing nothing back, right? And I hear that so often. You don't even hear from the hiring manager that's been put on hold. Secondly, I think, or linked to that, I think because there's skin in the game from the hiring manager, because they've paid the fee, because they've paid that fee up front, there's incentive for them to call Sean or call the recruiter and tell them, look, stop the work because this is going on, and put it on hold. I think that's a very important point I want to sort of add to that. The fact that he's got the retainer meant that he was more likely to get the call rather than it being put on hold and him not knowing it any better.
Yeah, I think the terminology you used there was skin in the game. There's benefit in the hiring manager contacting Sean and letting him know, because there's some skin in the game. It's not this one-way relationship.
Yeah.
Where you do all the work, quite bluntly, you work your butt off, and as far as they're concerned, nah.
No, 100%.
So they're working for us. We've got 4 other guys working for us as well. So what?
No, 100%. I think
really good.
I think when you look at it from a business point of view, and I think it makes me so sad often when you see recruiters doing this. Right, they're working on job orders that they're never going to fill. Right, and they're sacrificing their health often, their time, their energy, time away from their spouses, time away from their kids to work on job orders when the client doesn't even respect and value them. Which is why I'm so passionate about getting the retainer, getting that commitment up front from the client. So again, like give me so obviously the client's put on hold, but Sean's still getting his fee. I know that there'll be some recruiters listening to this and they feel like, actually Sean doesn't deserve that fee because he hasn't filled made placement. Even some hiring managers, placement's not being made. Why should he get paid, or why should the payment be given? What are your views on that, Terry?
Well, the other way of looking at it at the moment for all contingent recruiters, a lot of the time you're working, you're not getting paid. And at some level, you're accepting that and saying that's okay. Retained recruiters actually say, I'm worth more than that, and my time is valuable. And here's the thing about time that you just touched on, Drew. Time's the only thing you can't replace. We get, 86,400 seconds a day? And once it's gone, it's gone. Money you can replace, friends you can replace, business you can replace. You can't replace time. And so many recruiters I talk to say things like, I worked my butt off for this particular assignment and I cancelled going to the gym to meet my friends. I didn't go to my children's school play because I wanted to get this assignment completed. I wasn't always present with my family and, after work because I was thinking I've got to call these candidates. And I did all that and then the client put it on hold, or I did all that and somebody else filled the role. And the question I would ask you is, when you say, does Sean deserve it? The question I would ask you is, don't your family deserve more? Don't your family deserve that when you work, you get paid for it so they can have the things that you want to provide for them? Because that's what it's all about. Because either you're going to do that and get paid for the work that you do, or you're going to do a lot of work and not get paid for it. I want to be clear about this as well. Either way, it's a choice, but it is your choice. It's got nothing to do with the market, nothing to do with the economic climate. It's got nothing to do with the clients, but it's got everything to do with the choices that you make. Because you don't have to work with those clients who don't value and respect you and don't want to pay you for the time that you're putting in. But that's a choice that you make. But you need to be aware of that and be aware of the price that you have to pay for that choice. Because we've all been there. And look, I'm not bad mouthing anybody. I've cancelled meeting up with friends because the client says, "Look, Terry, I want to talk to you at 7 o'clock tonight." I'm thinking, if I talk to them, I can't get it. Yes, okay. And I sit by my phone at home waiting for the client to call me, and they don't. And I've cancelled whatever I was doing. I've arranged to go to the gym, and I used to go to the gym with a group of us, and we used to have a workout together and then sit in a sauna. And it's quite a leisurely thing to do. And you cancel those events because a client or a candidate's going to call you, and then they don't. But it makes no difference to them. But if you're cancelling those events, you think, well, actually, I'm cancelling it because I'm getting paid for it. It's not quite as painful. Does that make sense, Drew?
No, it does. It does. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
That's it, really. And I get that everything we've said here. If you've always worked contingent and this all seems ideal, I totally understand that. And it is for a lot of recruiters. If you want to find out what you can do, look, reach out to us. It's one of our areas of speciality is sharing with you how to put together a marketing campaign so you can get that type of business. So I get that you don't know how to do it, but that's not your fault if you've never been shown. Yeah. But again, it's your choice to discover exactly what you need to do to get to that situation. And the other thing to add as well, but we didn't touch on at all in any of this, the positive impact it has on your cash flow.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we've all been there, haven't we, as contingent recruiters, where you work on those jobs and you kind of counting on the cash coming in or whatever, and then for some reason it gets cancelled or put on hold or whatever, and you've got that inconsistent income month after month, quarter after quarter. Now you just think, hey, listen, I just win 2 retainers a month every month, and I know at the very least, I'm going to get the first stage month after month after month. So it does wonders for your cash flows, all which we didn't touch on, Drew, which is very, very unlike us, by the way. But there you go.
Saving it for another episode.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Awesome. So look, that's it for today. If you've enjoyed this episode, remember to share it with any colleagues you got, anyone else you know that works in the recruitment industry who could also benefit from having helpful insights, tips on how to grow the recruitment business. Remember to, if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, remember to like and comment. If you're watching on Spotify, iTunes, any podcast platform, remember to subscribe as well. We will speak with you very, very soon. Terry?
Until next time, take care, take action, be relentless.